Steelers' OTAs have officially wrapped up, and one of the strongest themes emerging from the sessions is that the organization is operating under a dramatically different rhythm than what players and observers had become accustomed to. According to information discussed around the team, the new coaching staff led by Mike McCarthy has introduced an environment described as constant movement, constant activity, and a far more detailed football-focused approach during practices. Reports coming from inside the building indicate that the pace has been intense, with players consistently engaged and very little downtime throughout the sessions. Former Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger shared what he had been hearing from sources connected to the organization, describing the atmosphere as eye-opening and significantly different from previous years. But before we continue, hit the like button if you're a fan who likes to stay well-informed and comment below. Are you excited about this season? I want to know your opinion. One of the major observations from these OTA practices is that the coaching staff appears determined to maximize every available minute while still operating within league guidelines. The emphasis has reportedly been on efficiency, structure, and attention to detail. While change always brings questions, the early signs suggest that the new regime wants to establish its identity immediately, rather than gradually easing into a new approach. Everything coming out of these sessions points toward a staff that wants to be highly involved in every aspect of preparation and execution. On the field, one of the most discussed developments has been the current state of the offense versus the defense. Multiple observations from the practices suggest that the defense has been ahead of the offense during this stage of the off-season program. Turnovers generated by the defense became a talking point, and concerns were raised about tipped passes, overthrows, and possessions ending in interceptions. However, there is also a strong belief that this should not automatically be viewed as a negative sign. New offensive systems often require time to develop timing, chemistry, and consistency, particularly when new leadership and fresh concepts are being installed. The encouraging aspect for Pittsburgh is that Rodgers has participated extensively throughout the OTA period, allowing the offense additional opportunities to work through those growing pains before training camp arrives. The expectation is that many of the issues seen during these sessions can be corrected through repetition and continued development as the team prepares for the next phase of the offseason. Another major takeaway centers around what this offense may eventually look like once the regular season arrives. Despite Mike McCarthy's reputation from his time in Dallas, there is growing belief that Pittsburgh's version of the offense will not simply mirror what the Cowboys ran. Instead, the expectation is for a far more physical identity built around heavier personnel groupings, multiple tight ends, fullback involvement, and a strong commitment to the running game. The goal appears to be creating flexibility from week to week while maintaining a physical foundation. That brings significant attention to Darnell Washington and Pat Freiermuth. Washington's combination of size, blocking ability, strength, and receiving skills makes him a unique weapon within this system. At the same time, Freiermuth has reportedly developed a strong connection with Rodgers, giving Pittsburgh two tight ends whose skill sets complement one another extremely well. Rather than viewing Washington as a secondary option, there is increasing belief that both tight ends could play substantial roles together, particularly on early downs when the offense wants to establish a physical presence. The fullback position may also become much more relevant than many expected. Riley Nowakowski was specifically highlighted as a player who could contribute in multiple ways, both as a lead blocker and as a player capable of producing after the catch. Combined with possible two running back formations and larger personnel packages, Pittsburgh appears to be building an offense designed to challenge defenses physically while maintaining flexibility in how it attacks opponents. Even jumbo packages featuring an extra offensive lineman remain very much part of the discussion. At quarterback, one of the more intriguing developments involves Will Howard. Through the OTA period, Howard has reportedly received extensive opportunities and has made a positive impression. As things currently stand, there is growing belief that he holds the inside track to secure the QB2 role behind Aaron Rodgers. While nothing is finalized and training camp remains critical, Howard's youth, upside, and strong off-season showing have positioned him favorably entering the next stage of competition. At the same time, the message remains clear. The job still must be earned, and performance during camp and preseason games will ultimately determine the outcome. The receiver room has also produced an interesting storyline. Roman Wilson is currently holding on to the WR3 position and has generated attention during OTA practices. Reports indicate that he caught a deep touchdown pass from Aaron Rodgers of more than 70 yards in the air, showcasing the vertical speed that makes him an attractive option in this offense. There is discussion that Wilson could be utilized similarly to the role occupied by a speedy slot receiver capable of stretching defenses vertically. However, questions remain regarding how that success will translate once pads come on and the physical nature of training camp begins. Meanwhile, Spencer Anderson continues to strengthen his case for the starting right guard position. He maintained that role throughout OTA sessions and appears to enter training camp with an advantage in the competition. While challengers remain in the picture and camp battles are still ahead, Anderson has positioned himself well through his work during the spring. Those are some of the most significant developments emerging from Pittsburgh's completed OTA program. A new coaching atmosphere, a defense currently setting the pace, an offense preparing to embrace heavier personnel, Will Howard gaining momentum in the quarterback hierarchy, Roman Wilson generating explosive plays, and Spencer Anderson holding valuable ground along the offensive line. Based solely on what was seen and discussed during these sessions, which of these developments do you believe could have the biggest impact on the Steelers once training camp begins? Defensively, the OTA sessions revealed what may become one of the defining characteristics of Pittsburgh's identity under Patrick Graham. One of the clearest trends observed throughout the spring was the heavy use of two high safety structures. While the team began incorporating more of these looks during the latter portion of last season, there is now a growing expectation that they will serve as a foundational element of the defense moving forward. The value of these alignments comes from the flexibility they provide before the snap. Starting with two safeties deep allows the defense to disguise its intentions, making it much more difficult for opposing quarterbacks to determine coverage responsibilities before the play begins. What makes this approach especially interesting is how many different coverages can emerge from the same pre-snap appearance. The defense can remain in two high concepts, rotate into single high looks, shift into matching coverages, or disguise pressure packages without giving away its plans too early. The result is a unit designed to create hesitation and uncertainty for opposing offenses. Rather than allowing quarterbacks to identify coverages immediately, the objective appears to be forcing them to process information after the snap when decisions must be made much faster. Naturally, whenever a defense spends significant time in two high shells, concerns arise regarding run defense. Traditionally, having two safeties deep can create lighter numbers near the line of scrimmage. However, the discussions coming out of OTAs suggest that Pittsburgh believes it has the personnel necessary to overcome that challenge. A major reason for that confidence centers around Jalen Ramsey and the role he is expected to play within this system. Ramsey's versatility was highlighted repeatedly when discussing how this defense may function. Although he is no longer being viewed through the lens of simply shutting down elite outside receivers every snap, his value remains extremely significant because of everything else he brings to the field. His physicality, intelligence, tackling ability, instincts, and experience make him a natural fit for a role that requires contributing against both the pass and the run. The ability to function effectively near the line of scrimmage while still holding responsibilities in coverage allows him to become a critical piece in maintaining balance within these defensive structures. Because of that versatility, the Steelers may be able to remain in these disguised defensive looks far more consistently than many teams around the league. Ramsey's presence gives the defense additional flexibility when responding to offensive formations and personnel groupings. Every indication from the OTA discussions suggests that his role will extend well beyond traditional coverage responsibilities. Another significant element emerging from the spring sessions involves the secondary as a whole. There is considerable optimism surrounding the combination of Joey Porter Jr. and veteran addition Jamel Dean on the perimeter. The belief is that having two corners capable of handling difficult assignments in man coverage provides Patrick Graham with far more options when designing defensive game plans. If those outside matchups can consistently hold up, the defense gains additional freedom to disguise coverages, rotate safeties, and create pressure opportunities elsewhere on the field. That brings us to another major theme repeatedly connected to Graham's defensive philosophy: deception. Throughout his coaching career, Graham has developed a reputation for creating confusion for opposing offenses through creative fronts, varied alignments, and pressure packages that are difficult to diagnose before the snap. The personnel currently available appears well suited for that approach. Pittsburgh possesses multiple defenders who can contribute as blitzers from different positions, creating opportunities for pressure to originate from virtually anywhere on the field. Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson were both specifically discussed as linebackers capable of impacting games as blitzers. Jalen Ramsey's versatility once again enters the equation because of his effectiveness attacking downhill. Deshaun Elliott and Jaquan Brisker were also identified as players who can contribute in pressure situations. The significance of having so many potential rushers is that offenses cannot simply focus on one or two individuals. Every snap presents the possibility that pressure could arrive from an unexpected location. Among all the defensive players discussed during the OTA period, Peyton Wilson may be one of the most intriguing. There are indications that his responsibilities are expanding, including greater involvement in communication within the defense. More importantly, the structure of this system appears capable of highlighting many of his strengths. If Pittsburgh truly embraces a more aggressive and blitz-oriented approach, Wilson could find himself in position to make a much larger impact than he has previously. The combination of increased responsibility and a scheme seemingly tailored to his skill set creates one of the more fascinating storylines to monitor as training camp approaches. The final major takeaway from the OTA period focuses on Yahya Black and his development along the defensive front. Throughout the spring practices, Black spent time working at nose tackle, a position that could become extremely important for the overall success of the defensive scheme. While his size naturally suggests that role, discussions surrounding his development emphasized that technique remains a critical factor. Specifically, maintaining proper pad level and consistently handling double teams will be essential for maximizing his effectiveness. The encouraging part is that the physical traits are already there. Black possesses the size, length, strength, and raw tools necessary to become a major contributor. Observers pointed out that flashes of that potential were already visible previously. The challenge now is converting those flashes into consistent production through technical refinement and continued development. If progress continues in that area, Pittsburgh could uncover a highly valuable piece for the future of its defensive front. When all of these OTA observations are placed together, a clear picture begins to emerge. The Steelers appear determined to establish a new operational tempo under Mike McCarthy. The offense is trending toward a more physical identity built around tight ends, fullbacks, and versatile personnel packages. Aaron Rodgers continues working within that developing system. Young players such as Will Howard, Roman Wilson, Spencer Anderson, Peyton Wilson, and Yahya Black are generating meaningful attention. Defensively, Patrick Graham appears ready to build a scheme centered on disguise, flexibility, pressure, and adaptability. Most importantly, These OTA sessions provided the first extended glimpse of what this new era may look like before the team reports to Latrobe for training camp. While many questions remain unanswered and roster battles are still ahead, the spring practices delivered plenty of reasons for fans to watch closely over the coming months. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and click on the video appearing on your screen next. That's where you'll find the latest Steelers updates and developments first, as soon as they happen.